This is the press conference for the first four as we introduce the champions of the Southwestern Athletic Conference, Texas Southern University. And joining us today at the center of the table is Bryson Grisham, and at the end of the table is Jordan Karl Nichols. We ask that there's no flash photography, no video recording, and for those that are accessing the press conference on Zoom, if you could please use the hand feature, and we will make sure that you're able to ask your question. As for the folks here in the audience, as you take the microphone, just provide your name and your affiliation, and then direct the question towards our student athletes. Questions for Bryson Grisham or Jordan Karl Nichols?
How was the trip here, and how's it feel just now that you guys have arrived? What are your kind of just feelings being here in Dayton?
Bryson, you want to start?
Yeah, I started. Actually, our trip was amazing, I should say. It was a nice, smooth trip, private plane, so I can't complain. And what was your second question? My bad.
Just how are you feeling being here?
I'm feeling good, thankful, blessed. I'm just happy to be here, to be honest.
It's exciting to be here again, you know, running it back and coming back from last year. It's a better environment because, you know, not the whole COVID stress thing and everything, but it was a good experience. You know, we have some young guys that never experienced that, so it was good coming down here to Ohio and, you know, being able to experience all this.
Other questions for Bryson and Jordan?
You guys have a really experienced roster. How do you feel like that'll help you guys this year? You guys got that experience last year. What does that do for you going into this tournament?
It means a lot. You know, we added a few pieces, you know, including Bryson right here. Bryson went to the Final Four last year. Other than going last year, I've been to the tournament. You know, we had P.J. Henry, he went to the tournament, and we also just have a lot of experience. So it helps because, you know, when you're in a dogfight or you're coming from behind, you know, we're not giving up. We have a lot of leadership, so, you know, we can hold each other accountable. So it helps us in the long run for sure.
I think the experience helped us a lot because it's 68 teams here, and I feel like a lot of people don't understand how hard it is to win a game, especially in March Madness. So I think like all the experience that we have right now is like it's a favor in our hands.
We have a question via Zoom. Richard Dean, would you like to ask your question for our student athletes, Bryson or Jordan?
Okay, yeah, can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, this is for both of y'all. I know you guys, you know, it's been a pretty tough, 24 hours, getting caught up about your opponent. But just tell me, what do you know about them and what do they do best and what kind of concerns you about the Islanders?
We just actually finished watching film on them, and I can tell you one thing, they play hard for sure. So, like, it's going to be a good game, like, competitive-wise. They got a very good core group of guards, very good core group of bigs, so it's going to be a good game. I just know they play hard.
Yeah, for sure. You know, if you punch your ticket, you're definitely a good team. So we respect them. I wouldn't say we're concerned or, fear anything. We don't fear nobody. So we going to the drawing board. We're watching film on them. They definitely do play hard. They have a lot of good pieces, but we're ready to play because, we also do play hard too.
Richard, do you have a follow-up question?
Yes, I do. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, you guys, this is, something that TSU does every year. They schedule that tough non-conference schedule. And just talk, and this is for both of y'all, just talk about how important that, how did that help you get to where you guys are now when you're playing teams? And then also, you guys have to be really confident about winning the tournament and also what y'all did to Florida this year.
Jordan, do you want to start?
Yes, it helps us a lot. At the beginning of the year, we were meshing together. You know, we had a lot of guys that came back, but we also had a lot of big pieces to add to the team. So it was a learning experience, and it taught us a lot about ourselves. We were able to tell where we were at during the year and what kind of competition we can play with. And it was a good learning experience. And to where we started to where we are now, it definitely paid off. And in the Florida game, I just think that's just an example of how good we can be. And also how we played in our last 2 games in the conference tournament. I just feel like, you know, the possibilities are endless if we can, you know, just lock down and play like that. So that's the biggest thing from this schedule.
Bryson?
To add on what he was saying, I'll say like the competitiveness of our non-conference schedule, like it bring like road games bring teams together, but I'll say losing on the road was different for us. I feel like it built our character and molded this team together. So I feel like our non-conference schedule like literally molded this team together.
Richard, thank you.
Hi, Matt DeMarco, University of Dayton. After making the tournament last year, how do you use that experience to springboard you into this year's tournament?
I'll say just like the things that I learned from last tournament was like just the small things. Like a small thing could get you beat, a small thing can help you win the game. So that's something I could take to add on for this year's team.
Yeah, it helps a lot because, you know, you get put in this position and then, you know, some guys get nervous or it's their first time here. So, you know, definitely being here a couple times and just having guys that have been here a couple times, it helps because, you know, like I said, the other question, you know, when you're down or, you know, you hit a little adversity, it's easy to overcome when you have that type of leadership.
It was a tough start to your guys' season, and you know, in December, you found your guys beating a ranked Florida at the time. Just kind of explain like your highs and lows of the season, and you know what kind of got you here.
Jordan, you want to start?
Yeah, well, you know, everybody knows we started at like 0-7, and a lot of that was just us learning each other, I would like to say. You know, if you're paying attention to the games, they were close games. You know, few of them, you know, we did get beat bad, but a lot of them was just learning experiences, and I like to say we just ran out of time, you know. So it helps because, like, you go 0-7, and then you beat a ranked 20 team Florida, and it just shows you, like, you know, all right, we can compete. It's not a fluke, you know what I'm saying? Everything that we've been working for is coming together. So, you know, that win really did help us because after that, we went on a nice little run, and then, you know, we just started to feel ourselves a little bit more.
Bryson?
I feel like the win over number 20 Florida, I felt like it was just pride. Like, you know, we got tired of losing, and like everybody human, so like you just keep getting beat up. Like, you know, you're gonna fight back sooner or later.
Stuart Mason, VTech Communications. I want to ask you guys, I've seen your league on TV. Just talk about people don't realize, but talk about the atmosphere at those games and then talk about the SWAC in general.
Bryson, you want to start?
Yeah, for sure. I'm happy that you said that. Like, I played basketball a lot for different conferences, and I could tell you one thing: the SWAC is literally underrated, man. Like, they might not have a lot of talent, but you're gonna get guys every game that play hard.
Yeah, I also been to, you know, 2 other conferences, and I think this is the best, you know, like just the atmosphere in the games, you know, from, you know, the coaches to the coaching staff to the people on campus. Everybody shows love and everybody's just into it. As far as the talent, you're going to get everybody's best, especially, you know, us being champs. Everybody want to beat the champs, so we're getting everybody's best. And it's just, you know, it's a league that's slept on, but I don't think it should be because, you know, there's a lot of talent there. And, you know, sometimes it gets overlooked.
This is the press conference for the Texas Southern Tigers as we're talking with the student athletes, Bryson Grisham and Jordan, Karl, and Nicholas. And if you'd like to ask a question via Zoom, we ask that you use the hand feature. Any more questions here for our audience, for our student athletes?
Yeah, Jim Fox, Associated Press. After that 0-7 start, is there one person or something somebody said or something somebody did, one thing that changed from that start to where you are here today?
I just think it was a matter of time, and it was good timing. Like I said, in that 0-7 run, we were just learning each other, and, we learned each other. So it was just perfect timing and good timing. So I think that, it just all that had a good part in that. But, we were talking to each other every day. We were uplifting each other. We never got down. We never start getting on ourselves or being, discouraged or anything. We just kept on putting our head down, getting to work, practicing hard, and just, putting the pieces together.
I kind of felt like our pride kicked in, like I said once before. I just felt like we just was tired of losing. So, we just stepped up, really, as a team.
Laurel Failer from the Dayton Daily News. Jordan mentioned your Final Four appearance last year with Houston. What was that experience like for you? And a lot of us are just kind of learning about you guys right now. What brought you to Texas Southern? Can you tell us a little bit about that transition?
Hold on. You got to ask your first question one more time?
Just your Final Four experience last year with Houston, and just kind of what you took from that.
It was exciting. It's like once in a lifetime type of thing. I was kind of mad. I wouldn't say mad. I was kind of sad it was in a bubble though. I didn't really get the experience the full crowd, I should say. But one thing that I could take from leaving Houston and coming to this team was just kind of my role. I'm still a role player here, but I feel like my role as a leader has I had to step up as a leader on this team, and I feel like it's kind of a good thing.
Any other questions for our student athletes?
Tell us about your coach, Johnny Jones. I've heard a lot about him.
First, I like to say, he's a great man. Before he's a coach, he gave me the opportunity to come to Texas Southern and play for him. He's an outstanding coach too. He's an unbelievable leader. He pushes us. I like to say he's a player's coach. He understands us. He's been there. He played for LSU. He's coached NBA guys. So, we all look up to him. And, he does a lot for us. You know what I'm saying? He helps us out. He talks to us on and off the court. So, it's definitely a close relationship.
Bryson, your thoughts on Coach Jones?
To add on what Jordan was saying, I'll say he's just a good guy. Outside of coaching, he's very family oriented. When you're just looking for coaches, that's the type of things you really look for. Especially in this type of business, a lot of coaches are just strictly business guys. I'll say he's definitely family oriented. He treats his players like his family. Another thing I could add on to, I feel you could talk to him about anything, not just basketball. If you ever was late, had a lot of things on your mind, you just give him a call. He could always just help you out with a lot of life experiences.
Any other questions for our student athletes?
Mary Newman from University of Dayton, but we've touched on your road games and how that's different, and then also the swag of the conference. But what's important to you all to try and bring that here? What's the thing that you make sure you take from Texas and bring it to all your road games, and especially here?
Bryson?
I'll say our toughness. Our toughness, and add on what you were just saying, I'll say our swag too. We got a little swag when we be playing on the court. Show a little attitude. It's good to show emotion sometimes, especially in today's game.
I would say just, we're tough. Like I said, we're a league that's slept on, but, I feel like we're representing for the league. and everybody that gets looked over. So toughness, like you said, swag. We do, like Bryson said, we do have a little attitude and stuff, but I wouldn't even call it attitude. We just very passionate about the game, you know? And, you know, that takes over when we get to playing. So y'all going to see tomorrow what type of, you know, energy we going to bring.
We have another question via Zoom as Richard Dean steps back in. Richard, go ahead and ask your question.
Yes, Richard Dean at Houston Chronicle. Yeah, I've seen you guys play for a few years now and everything, but there's a lot of people on this Zoom call that aren't familiar with TSU basketball. How would you describe y'all's type of play, and what do you guys do best?
Jordan, would you like to start?
Fast, run and gun, you know, defense, very good defense, you know. I feel like that's what we like to pride ourselves on is defense, rebounding, and, you know, just being strong and tough. So, you know, that's what we pride ourselves on. You know, we got real into the, you know, the off season. We got real serious about that this year. So, you know, we like to say level 5, and that's what we like to say. You know, so just really level 5 about everything we do.
To add on what he was saying, I'll say just like our toughness, really, honestly, our toughness just competing at a high level. I feel like we could play with anybody in the country if we competing at our level 5 level.
Any other questions for our student athletes? Bryson, Jordan, outstanding season. Good luck tomorrow night. Enjoy it.
Thank y'all.
Yeah, have a great day.
Bryson Gresham, Jordan, Karl, Nicholas, and student athletes from Texas Southern University. Soon we will be joined by their head coach as we'll learn more about the Tigers. At this time, we'd like to welcome the head coach of the Texas Southern Tigers, Johnny Jones. The Tigers, champions of the Southwestern Athletic Conference, on a record of 18-12. Questions for Coach Jones?
Laurel Failer from the Dayton Daily News. Welcome to Dayton. You guys got off to a rough start to the season, really came on late. What do you think was the difference? Was there, just what were you seeing down the stretch from your team that maybe you weren't seeing early on?
For us, we play each year one of the toughest, sometimes number one strength of schedule in the country because of the teams that we wind up playing. It's generally Gonzaga, we'd go to Baylor, you name it. So the top part of our schedule is against more of the Power 5 type schools, and then we get into a conference play, and it's more of teams that are generally built like us at the end of the day. But at our deal and our focus, even playing those Power 5 schools during the non-conference when we're generating funds and everything to help at the end of the day with our program. Our focus is mostly about, are we getting better, playing against this stiff competition, what improvements have we made from game to game, and if we're able to show improvements, that's a huge sign at the end of the day for us. We're 0-7. The guys hadn't lost their way. They were still extremely focused throughout the year, and we wind up knocking off a top 20 team in Florida at their place, and that let me know at that time that the guys were still in a good place at the end of the day. And and that was not long after that we're starting to get into our conference play. But I learned a long time ago, just from church, one of my pastors used to use the term, say, sometime you win and sometime you learn, and as long as you're learning, you never lose. And so we did a lot of learning at the beginning of the year. And so we're fortunate to stay locked in and focus on the big picture and getting ready. And we're fortunate to be sitting here today.
Questions online. As again, you can use our Zoom feature. We ask that you just use the hand. And Richard Dean has stepped on here. Richard, your question for Coach Jones.
Yes, Richard Dean at Houston Chronicle. Coach, when I talked to you almost 24 hours ago, you just found out who you were playing. You hadn't had much chance to even find out about your opponent. So in the last 24 hours, what have you learned about him?
Luckily, I'm just familiar with the program because obviously they're sitting there in the state of Texas. We scrimmaged them, not this coach, but their prior coach, a couple of times over the last couple of 2 or 3 years. So this is obviously a different team. But we've learned a lot about them. I'm very familiar with the conference that they're in, and so I follow their scores really throughout the year. I am familiar with the head coach and the great job that he had done there at Creighton. He was assistant there in the state Division I school in Texas prior to when I was the head coach at previous schools, say, for instance, University of North Texas. So very familiar with him. But I know they've got a good guards. They play extremely fast in terms of their motion. They rebound the basketball as well, and they very good up-tempo style basketball teams. So they like to get to the free throw line because of how fast they play, but they do a great job in sharing the basketball. I think they average about 15 assists a game. So they're a very balanced basketball team, and they've won their conference. And people trying to tell me that they wind up coming in 4th place in their conference, but they wind up winning the tournament. And I remind people that we came in 3rd place a year ago in our conference and wind up winning the championship as well. So when teams are playing well at the right time, I think that's got to be your focus on them. And I think they're one of those teams that have won maybe 7 out of 8 or 8 out of 9 of their last games.
A question here on the far side of the room.
Connor Bruce, University of Dayton. So you're coming off, winning your conference. So how do you use that momentum of winning a conference, coming in? Selection Sunday was just a few days ago. It's been a quick turnaround. So just how do you use that momentum in here tomorrow?
Yeah, it's a great question. The big thing is you want to be playing well at the right time, and the right time is when you're talking about February and March. You want to make sure that your team is trending the right way and peaking at the right time. And so our conference tournament, I think, is a great sign of that. And when you're playing well at the right time, we're fortunate that we had to bye. We played on Wednesday, had Thursday off. Other teams had to play that Thursday and then come back and play on that Friday where we picked it back up. And I thought our team continued to get better, trending the right way, and we want to make sure that we utilize that. So playing this early game, it's not like we've got to wait till the end of the week. We just finished playing on Saturday. Now we got to turn around again and play tomorrow, and our guys should still be intact. And as a coach, I hadn't had a chance to confuse them that much, so we can get back on the court and play.
Jumping back on Zoom, Daniel Rodriguez, your question for Coach.
Hey, Coach. Daniel Rodriguez with Diff League with Daniel. My question is, I wanted to ask you about what's the difference between this team this year compared to last year's team that went to the first four, won that game, played Michigan. What is the main difference between these two teams?
The main difference, I think, with this basketball team, we had a couple of pieces that we lost from last year's team and one of our starters, but we feel like that we gained through the transfer market. One of those guys in Bryson Grisham, who started for Houston 19 games last year, played 17 minutes a game. He's with us now as a post guy at 6'9", and unbelievable size and strength. That's what we were lacking, I think, against a good Michigan team. Number one seed Michigan team a year ago. Our inside play to be able to battle with those guys. So I think our inside presence that we have would be the big difference from a year ago to this year's team, which is a strong positive force.
Daniel, do you have a follow-up question?
No, I do not. Thank you again.
Thank you, Daniel.
Questions in the audience? Go right here at the front.
Just going back to that Florida win, was there anything that happened right before that? Anything you had said to the guys that kind of you think made a difference in that game, or just what was the difference in that one? And just expand on that a little bit.
Yeah, our focus, especially in those early games during the season, it's pretty much your motto. One of our mottos is make sure that we finish everything that we do. Out there on the floor, be it rebounding or screening, action, or whatever it is, just make sure that you're finishing everything strong. I think these guys did a great job of, I would say, staying focused, especially after setbacks or whatever that we had. And going in that game, we just wanted to make sure that we were continuing to improve. And the way that we kind of grade ourselves, it's important to play as hard as we can every second, every play, and finish in plays every second, every play. I thought in that game we came out maybe every second, every play, things went our way. We got to the 50-50 balls. We made the tough plays. We made the tough shots. We did all the little things that made the big difference. And for us to go in at halftime that way, you obviously know you got 20 minutes left to go back out there, and then we got off to a great start there in the second half. So I thought everything just aligned for us in that game at the end of the day. But the beauty about it, we've got a couple of guys that still left on this team. A couple of years ago, and I always go into all these games now, playing at Oregon, we were able to win there before, and they were a rated team. We've won at Baylor. We've won at Texas A&M. So we've had those things to happen to us. And until these guys, you don't know which one of those games is going to be a get-up game for us if we're not playing as hard as we possibly can. And so they were able to do that in that game. And we came close, although we didn't win some of those games. We were 0-7 coming up to that point. Came extremely close to maybe Washington and a couple of other places that we played early in the season. Just wasn't able to get over that hump.
Other questions for Coach Jones? Here we have a question from Richard online. Richard Dean, go ahead.
Yeah, hey, Coach, you have a rotation of 10 players, and I think they all average at least 13 minutes a game, and no one plays more than 25. You didn't have anybody scoring double figure. They're all capable of scoring. Just talk about the team chemistry and how unselfish these guys are to make this all work.
Well, thanks, Richard. I think that was one of the challenges of coming into the season, especially with the core guys we had returning from last year. Then had the addition of two new guys, and P.J. Henry, who played at Hartford last year and played 32 minutes at point guard against the Baylor team that won a national championship. Bringing that core of guys in, didn't want guys to get in practice and settle and just trying to get in a rut in terms of just finding their position. So we've had over 17 or 18 different starting lineups throughout the year, and I think our guys understood the focus that they needed to have, meaning that they could impact their game so they could maybe start next game. So therefore their practice habits and everything was the same. They were great guys, competed, extremely competitive, and if they weren't starting, they were looking for the opportunity to get into the game to impact the game the right way. So it cut down on the pouting and the guessing and all the other stuff from our basketball team. So I think as a unit, it helped them become even closer. The chemistry's been great on our basketball team, and with that rotation of 10 guys on any given night, any of those guys are very capable of going out and having big games. And although we didn't have any guy on our team, although we won the conference championship last year and went to the tournament, we had 0 guys on the all-conference team this year. They didn't make first team or second team, and that may have been because we didn't have anybody scoring double figures. So unfortunately, it may have hurt our guys in terms of some people voting, but at the end of the day, I'm glad I've got a great group of guys that were focused on the big picture. It wasn't about individual accolades, it was about their team, and I think that's the reason that we're sitting here today, because they were more motivated at the end of the day about what they could do as a group, more so than individuals.
Richard, do you have another question for Coach?
Yeah, I have a little follow-up question. Coach, you're a seasoned team. Looking at the roster, and I see all these seniors and grad students. You got experienced players. With the experienced players, and also the fact that you guys played in this first 4 a year ago and won it, I think your confidence level has to be pretty high, and the fact that you have experienced players helps you so much more.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, on senior night, we had 9 guys come out need to be celebrated, right? And if you're sitting there in the stands and you're a fan, you're trying to figure out, wow, how's this team going to look next year? We've got all these seniors. Well, only 4 of those guys are leaving the team that doesn't have any more eligibility because of the COVID deal that they allowed them to come back and play an additional year. 5 of those guys will be back with us. So that experience that we've got on this basketball team with those 9 seniors and these other guys that have graduated, it means a lot. And it's one of the reasons that we sit in the position here, because several of those guys were on that team a year ago. And at the end of the day, I thought I was going to lose those guys because they had the opportunity, because they'd already graduated, to leave and either go and transfer and go play in another program if they felt like the mission was accomplished and they'd done what they needed to at Texas Southern to go play professionally. But my son's one of those players as well, and he and his friends and teammates wind up going on social media and putting hashtag run it back, and meaning that they were all going to return and do this again. They weren't going to leave. They weren't transferring out. They wanted to come back and see if they could go back to back. And as a coach, I couldn't have been more excited, because one, it cut down on recruiting and me worrying with those guys coming back. And we had a great core, and they did a great job of coming back and focused and again, worrying about the right things.
Question in the back of the room.
Coach, you kind of led me to this question, but talk about having a chance to coach your son.
Well, I'd say it's been unique. I've when I hung up my sneakers back in 84, 85 as a point guard and off shooting guard at LSU, I've been coaching ever since. Dale Brown hired me as an assistant. I sit on the side for 13 years there as an assistant coach before leaving there in 97. And so I've been coaching. My son was born in 98. And still coaching. So I've been a Division I basketball coach his entire life, so never had a chance to be a part of his AAU programs and any of those things, and had a chance to be around. We could obviously go and kick it around and work an individual skill work in the gym. But to be able to be there on the sideline and coach him and his buddies, never had that experience. And when this opportunity presented itself, it was like a dream come true. It was something that I've always wanted and wished would happen. And I think, obviously God put us in a unique situation here because I left Baton Rouge and after being head coach there at LSU and going to University of Nevada with one of my former assistants. And we played out there and went to the Sweet 16. And I got this job. And my son decided not to stay at Nevada. He wound up coming with me. And it's been a special 4 years. Not only, that he only had really 3 years left, but because of COVID, he had an opportunity to play for me for 4 years like a regular student. And so it's been great. And it's kind of an emotional time for me on senior night, his last home game there. And but it's been a blessing. And I'm just fortunate that we've been able to win because we won 3 state championships in high school. We went out to Nevada. We went to the Sweet 16. And I was be dang if I was going to be the only coach who didn't win a championship with. So it was good last year. It took a lot of pressure off. And for us to repeat and come back this year, and, according to him, it's all him. It's not anything to do with me. And so he brought that win into us. So it's been great coaching him.
Any other questions for Coach Jones? We do have one online here as Daniel Rodriguez steps back in. Daniel, your question.
Hey, Coach. My last question I wanted to ask you. After finding out you're making tournament and you're playing Corpus Christi, how fast after they announced that do you guys go over tape and look at film at Corpus Christi? Is it almost instant, or do you guys maybe wait a little bit, celebrate, or it's just always back to work?
Well, we actually we were at a little celebration party with a guest watching the brackets be released, and right afterwards, as a team, when the last team was announced, we got up, hugged the guys, told them we would see them in the morning, and it would give them the information that they needed. We went straight back to the office, downloaded the games, whatever that we needed. I gave the scout to one of our coaches that was going to have the other 2 assistants would also take a look, and our video guy was there with us. And so we immediately got to it and tried to get as much extensive information as we possibly could on the phone and watching these guys, and then just getting back with each other and trying to find out what we've seen and what was the positives and negatives, and start putting together a game plan. So, yes, and when the game comes up as quick as it did, like you see it yesterday and you're playing on tomorrow, it's pretty quick turnaround against a opponent that you're not familiar with. But I guess that's the beauty, really, of what we do. And so it's a crash course for us, and we're excited to have the opportunity to do that.
Another question here via Zoom as Patrick Warren. Go ahead, your question to Coach.
Hey, Coach, how you doing? This is Patrick Waring from the MBS Sports Hour.
Hi, Patrick.
I just wanted to ask you a little bit just about being an HBCU, with you coming back in the tournament 2 years in a row now, with a lot of attention, of course, a lot of needed attention on HBCU programs. Can you just kind of talk about that and kind of what it means to represent?
Yeah, well, I tell you, it was exciting for us last year, and a good thing for me, been there in Baton Rouge for the number of years, been there and familiar with Southern University, which is another HBCU there in Baton Rouge, and knowing Ben Jobe and all the other coaches that was there and becoming familiar with them and around their program. So when this opportunity presented itself, I knew exactly what I was getting into there in Houston because I was familiar with Texas Southern, one primarily because of Mike Davis, who was the head coach there at the time, and us having a chance to play against each other. But for me to be here, sitting in the seat, and the job that Mike had done in tradition there at Texas Southern University, for us to come into the tournament and win a game last year during the tournament, it was great. We're excited. I think Norfolk State wound up winning on that night as well. And so I think one of the good things, so that we can continue to try and change the narrative in the conversation, if we can continue to put good teams together, make a great showing, continue to make a great showing in the tournament, that some great things can happen for us. And so our job is to make sure that we're representing all the HBCUs in the right fashion and in the right way when that opportunity presents itself.
Coach Jones, we appreciate your time. Good luck tomorrow night. Have fun.
Thank you so much. Thanks for your time, and go Tigers. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Coach.
Thank you. Matt, I'm just glad those Dayton students didn't ask more questions.